Oh, I can make it interactive. Hold on. Oh, there.
Ooh.
Where are you? Am I here still?
Yeah, I see you.
Oh, here I am. Okay.
Technology.
You know, technology is great, and I
And
understand much of this, and then it feels like it changes day to day. Not digging my lighting just a moment. I moved. I, now I will have different lighting. I will be lighter. Okay. Thank you for your patience.
oh, no problem. It's good to see
Hello.
you.
It's good to see you, Elena. Wait, it is Elena.
Alena.
Alena. I had a feeling I was mispronouncing the
Oh,
E.
everybody does. If there's A's on either end and L's in the middle, I usually answer to it. So
That's good. That's good. It's nice to see you.
it's good to see you, Catherine.
Been a couple of years, few years.
It has, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
And
fun
folks,
following you on Facebook.
I know. I've been having a whole life, and I've been following you as well.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge you have the same background as Mac
Yes,
because you are in the same household.
I am. Yeah, in fact,
Yeah.
I'm wearing my unicorn
Oh,
dress.
that's fantastic. You have your unicorn pride shirts. I love
Yes.
it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. Mac and
Thank
Donna took me in when I was having issues around my second bout of cancer,
Yeah.
and they're like the best people ever to spend my time with. So
You were out of the country when that happened.
I was in Poland, yeah. So
Ugh.
in Krakow, being retired, enjoying my retirement,
And
loving
then
Europe, and then I fucking got
body.
cancer.
Yeah.
Mesothelioma this time, not even breast cancer. Breast cancer, I had the most common form of breast cancer in 2011. This time I have one of the most uncommon form of cancer. So I, had to do both degrees of it. So
What is your uncommon form of cancer, if you don't mind me?
it's mesothelioma, which is caused by asbestos. And it started in my stomach, which usually it starts in the lungs. So I have a rare form of cancer. It's actually more treatable than the one in your lungs. So, but it's not
Oh,
very treatable. But
bad
it's
news, good
okay.
news.
Yeah.
So I asked this of Mac, and I would like, and you and I briefly discussed that just to model consent,
Absolutely.
could we have a quick couple of minutes about what might be in and out of our conversation today?
Absolutely.
And just for the internet people, uh, Elena is a trained professional. I would not usually spring this on somebody. Usually I have these conversations first, but you are actually one of the leaders in the sex positive realm, I believe.
My nickname here in Seattle is Mom of the sex positive community. So yeah.
Right, right. So I just want to thank you for reaching out to me when I shared about having breast cancer,
Yeah.
and for agreeing to do so in a public way right now in this moment. So I have no planned agenda. um, I, I kind of want it to all be about you, and I'm pretty sure this will also be about me because I'm in the thick of it right now.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you?
It's totally okay with me. Yes.
Okay, okay. And the one of the reasons I'm excited to be speaking to you about this is you did not have reconstruction when you had your mastectomy.
That is correct.
And I have no idea what personal boundaries you have around talking about this. And I hate asking the question like, is there anything I should know? Because that's absurd. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, I can tell you so much.
Can we be pretty loosey goose about it? And if something's
Absolutely.
uncomfortable, you'll just say no?
There's really nothing that I can think of that would make me feel uncomfortable. If there is, I will politely refuse to answer your question.
Excellent. Pardon me while I feed my tea addiction here. I'm
Yeah,
onto my herbal tea.
I'm the water girl. I drink
Mm,
lots of water.
I like the water as well. And I have to take this off because I'm having a hot flash. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, be prepared
Yeah,
for more. I have stories about that too.
that was fun. Yeah, the first one I had, I was living at my parents' house as they were aging out. And I said to my mother, I said, oh my God, I think I just got the flu. And and she just almost fell over laughing. It was kind of like my first period. Like I knew it was a thing. And then it actually happened to my body.
So since
Kind
we're
of
talking
like cancer.
I'm gonna tell you something about hot flashes and cancer right now, just because it's really funny. So I had I went through menopause. Oh God, let's see. I had cancer in 2011. I went through menopause in the early 2000s, right? So so I was all through with menopause, and I'm finished with my cancer treatment. And my oncologist, Dr. Reddy, who was this amazing, amazing woman, she's like, I'm going to put you on a Remedex for the next 5 years. And and I looked at her and I'm like, so what are the side effects of a Remedex?
What
She
is a
goes, kind of
Remedex?
like it's a anti-cancer drug that you will probably get put on for 5 years afterwards. And she goes, oh, it's a lot like she goes, it's a lot like menopause. She'll have weight gain, mood swings, and hot flashes. And this is a quote. I looked at Dr. Reddy and I said, I have fucking done menopause. And she started laughing and she goes, well, you're going to do it again. Oh, she was right. Oh my God. The worst was I gained like 50 pounds.
So
And it
did you
wasn't,
have the estrogen strong?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it has to do with that. And, but, and it took me getting a different kind of cancer to lose all the weight that I gained. Cancer is not a good weight loss program, but it did work for me to lose all the weight. So just giving you a heads up, and Remedex is not, and I was like, it's night sweats, which I had hardly got when I went through regular menopause, but I would wake up being like, you know, so
okay.
just a
Thanks.
heads up. So what do you want to know about my cancer adventure?
Well, yeah. So I guess I want to know everything.
I can start at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting story. So I was really good about getting my mammograms on a regular basis and was doing great. And one of my friends, this wonderful young man named Darren, at that time was working for Geico Insurance. He was selling insurance in 2010. And he asked me if I wanted to get, there's a type of insurance that you can get that covers like, I can't remember the kind of insurance was, but it covers things you're not insured for, right? And it was, and he calls me up at the end of 2010 and he goes, you've had it for a year. And he said, which means that you can get a wellness check of $90 if you go get a mammogram or a pap smear. Have you had one? And I'm like, oh, I forgot to get my mammogram this year. It was one of those like, oh shit, because I was supposed to have done it in the spring. I said, I'll go get a mammogram. And then I forgot that I told him I'd go get a mammogram. And he calls me up right like a month later. And it's like totally, and it's like December of 2010. And he goes, Alena, did you get your mammogram? I'm like, oh shit, I forgot again. And he goes, Alena, I'm trying to give you fucking $90 or 60, something like that. He goes, get your fucking mammogram. I'm like, yes, Darren. So I called up that afternoon, scheduled my mammogram for the first week in January of 2011. Didn't think a thing about it. Couple days later, I'm scratching my boob and I feel a lump. Yeah, I'm not even that worried about that because back in 96, I had some lumps removed from my breast, that same breast, and they were benign. So I figured that, and I just figured they were benign lumps. So in fact, I'd had them removed twice. I'd had lumps removed from that breast, all benign. Didn't think a thing of it. So I go and get my mammogram. I'm not worried about it. Well, it's a Tuesday afternoon following that my mammogram was like on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm getting ready for one of my partners. I'm polyamorous, so I have multiple partners, to come over and hang out. I just bought a bottle of really good, expensive rum, and we were just gonna have a little evening together. And I get a phone call from my nurse, from the oncology department, and she's like, "You need to sit down. I need to talk to you now." And she told me that I had cancer. And I'm
Did
like,
they figure that out just from a mammogram, or did they do a
oh, they did a biopsy.
ultrasound?
I'm
Oh, they
sorry.
did a
They did
biopsy.
a
Oh,
mammogram
okay.
and then they did a biopsy because they found, I'm sorry, it's been since 2011 and I have chemo brain, which means I can legitimately say I have forgot things because of the chemo. Not that I'm 67 years old and just old, but has nothing to do with it. Yeah, I got a biopsy because they found some lumps, you know. But again, I wasn't worried about it. And she said, and I started to stammer because I didn't know what to say. And she goes, Alena, wait. She goes, are you asking me if you're going to die? And I said, yes, I want to know if I'm going to die. And she goes, probably not. This is the most common form of breast cancer. 70% get it. And Dr. Reddy, who is going to be my oncologist, is very aggressive and can take care of it. And I'm like, well, that's good. And then Jim shows up and we cry and drink almost a half a bottle of rum. So that was kind of how I found out about it. And so I started getting treatment. First thing I went into, so this was in January. It was in February. It was February 15th, right after Valentine's Day. I got my mastectomy. Such a romantic time. And it was
I have a question about the mastectomy. Was it just your breast, or was it breast and lymph nodes?
Some lymph nodes, not a whole lot, but some lymph nodes and my breast, which means that because of that, and it's my right breast, I'm a little lopsided. It means I can, shoot arrows like an Amazon.
That's what my friends are telling me. I'll be able to shoot arrows because Blanche is.
Are you getting
my
a double or
I'm getting a single mastectomy
on your right
and
side?
all of the lymph nodes. So it is in, and the PET scan came back negative. I know, right? The clinical staging is only 1B, which resulted in a high five in the surgeon's office. And they were like, plus the fact that I've named my breast Blanche and Bob. I mean, they now need names because Blanche is individuating and she needs to,
Yep.
And they're queer because Blanche is on my masculine side, whatever. So, but it'll be all 10 lymph nodes on the right side. So I know that
4 removed, I believe. So that means that from now on, anytime you get a blood pressure taken, it's going to have to be from your other side because they can't do it. And I've had it done when I was in the hospital this last year for in Poland. They had to do it from both sides just because I was really sick, and my hand like swelled up like this. So do not do anything to have compression on your right side again. That's just a little heads up. So yeah, the mastectomy was weird. Now I'm polyamorous. At the time, I have several partners, and I still have several partners, but several partners who had partners and stuff. And so, and I'm very out. I'm a big believer that you should be out to your doctors because, well, first of all, they're not gods. They're just hired. They're hired physicians. In fact, my amazing, wonderful doctor that I had back then, who was my regular doctor, he called me up like the day after I got diagnosed, and he goes, I just saw your diagnosis. And my first response was, oh, fuck. And he says, and then I realized of all my clients, my patients, you're the one that will get through this the best. That was from Dr. Mayer. He was an amazing doctor. So I go in for my mastectomy, and I'm supposed to only have 2 people in the pre-op. I have 5. And I actually told him, I said, because 3 partners and 2 of their partners, I said, they are going to be with me. You have just to deal with it. And and then when we came out of the operation, Group Health has private rooms, which was really nice. It's a very small hospital. One of my metamors brought a picnic basket, and we had a picnic in my room. And at midnight, they came in and they're like, could you guys quiet it down? Because we have people that need to sleep. But I'm like, ooh.
Could you define metamor?
Metamor is the partner of my partners. Their primary partners are their squeezes. Yeah.
I know that, but
it was really fun, like in hindsight. I mean, actually getting the mastectomy was weird and strange, and and then I had to go in and get a port put in so that they could do chemo.
So you did chemo.
Yeah, I did chemo. And I remember the interesting thing in the port, they don't put you out 100%, but you're kind of almost out because it's an operation. And I'm having a conversation with the nurses about science fiction novels. Don't ask why. I have no idea. And I got my port. I spent a lot of my time laughing. I'm a big person. I post jokes on Facebook on a regular basis and stuff.
I read them. Bad jokes.
Bad jokes of the day.
Yeah.
I believe that we have to laugh through all this, and so I spent a lot. I had private cries, and the thing that was really amazing is that I had such an incredible support system. of people sending me food because I had to take off. I actually said at that time I was the executive director of the Center for Sex Positive Culture and the
Which
foundation.
is?
The Center for Sex Positive Culture is a members-only organization here in Seattle that puts on events for the kinky, poly, sex-positive community. And then the foundation, which was our sister organization, is the education and arts side and does the Seattle Erotic Art Festival. And I was the executive director and one of the founders of both of these.
The
And
other cool thing you do, because you may
that's,
not toot your horn in this, is
yes,
you are willing to share everything that you know and everything that you've learned with anybody who
absolutely.
wants to, yeah. And that, Jim, as well, your generosity and clear commitment to spreading,
Spreading
you
sex
know,
positivity.
well, and also, you know, I would imagine you have made some mistakes. You have learned some things.
Oh yeah, I'm willing to tell people about my mistakes. Most definitely.
Exactly.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful
Thank you.
thing. Yeah. I just want to acknowledge that.
That's what I do. So where was I? I see now I've totally forgotten.
So
Like I
you
was.
were you had to take time off of
Oh,
work.
I was gonna take. I told him I said, oh, I'm not gonna take any time off when I had my mastectomy, and they're like, no, you need to take 2 weeks off, and I'm like, no, I don't need to take 2 weeks off. I took 2 weeks off. Oh my God. So please give yourself time to heal. And the cool thing is, and this showed how much I was loved, which really was awesome. I show up back into my office and they had put paper hearts all over my office. And it was like, oh. However, because of the chemo and all that, I only could work part-time. I was at home a lot of the time. My doctor, Dr. Reddy, was very aggressive about the chemo. So I ended up doing it every other week. Most chemos every 3 weeks. And so I had 8 rounds of chemo over 16 weeks, which is very aggressive. So I spent a lot of time at home, not feeling too great. And so I had my partners came over and hung out with me. People sent me food. I didn't want for anything. And it was like the most incredible experience. And then they would come with me to and I forgot to bring it. I was going to bring it in and I forgot.
Tiara.
My tiara. So I had my chemo on Tuesdays. And because of that, we out of the blue, I don't know what possessed me. I decided that I wanted everybody that showed up with me to wear tiaras. Now, if anybody knows Jim Duvall, who's one of my partners, he's a big guy with a beard and a long, big hair.
He's got
Big
the
mustache.
handlebar.
He's a presence. Yeah.
Yes, but
Well,
also awesome, and my shoulder fits perfectly under his armpit.
oh, that's
Which is
nice
very,
to know. Yay.
I don't know if that's still true, but
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
yeah.
And so like him and I'm going to, all the people that came with me to my various partners, everybody had to wear a tiara. So we called it Tiara Tuesdays, which I still do every Tuesday. But people all over the state and country were wearing tiaras for me. I have a friend that worked at a ranch and she used to wear tiaras on her cowboy hat, right? And so my oncology nurses were all like, you are the party girl. And so this is one of those places where people did chemo in a room with maybe 5 or 6 other people. It wasn't a separate rooms for the kind of chemo I was doing. And in fact, I was getting tested for this is a funny story. So I'm getting tested for my, to blood test and blood work to get ready to put my port in. And I have to do it at the oncology department. And my nurse who's doing it, she asked me, she said, well, what do you do for a living? And I told her, and she goes, really? She said, are you a sex educator? And I said, yes, I am. And she goes, can I ask you a question? I think I ruined my son's life about masturbation. And we ended up having a conversation about her son and sexuality and masturbation while she's poking me with needles. And then she tells me 2 really dirty jokes, and which I'm not going to repeat. And I mean, like really dirty. And this is how I started at in the oncology department.
Oh,
It was
that's awesome.
so fun. And so I would show up and they would all be like, it's the party girl. And, and everybody be wearing their tiaras and stuff. And in fact, my last day of chemo, they do a song and kind of a song and dance for everybody on their last day. And they sing a song that's, we love you, but don't ever come back, is kind of the theme of it. They wore tutus for me. And my oncologist, who never shows up for these, they told me, showed up for mine. Dr. Reddy did. So it was like really cool. It was just like an amazing experience. Oh, and I got to tell you another funny thing. And this is another thing for you to prepare for. Right after the operation, my mastectomy, you've heard of phantom pain, like if somebody loses an arm or a leg, they can still, phantom breast pain and phantom itchy nipples are a reality. I'm like, it's like a week after it's so funny. It's a week after my mastectomy, and my right nipple is itching like crazy. In fact, it still does itch every once in a while. And I I was on Twitter a lot then, so I tweeted, I said, I'm having phantom breast pain. And somebody pops up and goes, the phantom breast, what a great name for a superhero.
Oh, it
And
is.
we created, and I have a friend that drew some pictures, but we never made it into a comic book, but I still think I want to do this someday. The phantom breast, and her sidekicks were Chemo Boy, who's kind of like the psychic guy that runs around spinning so around and stuff. He's kind of an annoying guy, but he works. And then Areola Danger, which is her main sidekick.
Oh my God, I love it.
The Phantom Breast is in an Amazon metal war like outfit with a arrow, so she can do the whole thing and stuff. And they were gonna fight the big Mr. C and leukemia, and we had and Tumor Boy. So we had this whole thing plotted and planned. And someday I'm gonna make a cartoon, a comic book.
Oh, I love it.
But
so it sounds like you weren't very afraid.
I was terrified.
Oh, okay. Because I have to admit, I take an SSRI for PTSD, and I increased the dose when I got my diagnosis to assure my body of only having a stress moment. And I feel one of the big things I'm afraid of is once I'm under general anesthesia, I cannot continue to give consent.
Yes.
Which is, as you know. And then something that came up for me this week is, as much as I'm like, yes, this is happening, I'm in my body for the most part as it's happening. And I'm cognitively, psychologically, okay with the removal of my breast, I'm going to wake up in a different body.
You are, yes.
And that's frightening.
Yes, I have a really warped sense of humor, so I make fun of the weird things that happen to me because that's just what I do. And
I'm a big believer.
And I was terrified through the whole process. It was really scary, and it was my partners, and it was also, so you just had Mac on. So I don't know if you know, Mac and the reason I have a history with Mac is back in 2011 when it was just before my hair started falling out from chemo. I just started chemo. Mac came in with a friend to interview me about something, and in my office. And when he left, I'm thinking, that guy is hot. And turns out that he was interested in me. And so now I'm at what I feel my ugliest. My hair is falling out. And I did dye my hair purple then.
We have to have a content warning. This story might involve clowns.
That was later, but yes, there was.
Oh, okay.
That was like later that fall. But the reality is that he actually went after me. It was like an amazing experience, and he's like, would you like to have dinner? So we went out to dinner and we talked for like 5 hours, and that's when the subject of clowns came up. He says to me, I used to be a Barnum and Bailey clown, and I went, oh, we may not be able to have a relationship then because I don't like clowns. And he goes, this is our first date, wait a minute, right? So I mean, and there is a story about clowns, but that's like down the road. But the reality is that he went after went after me, and that made me feel loved and desired. And then he's an energy worker, and so we did some energy on my missing breast area. He brought sexual sensation back to it. We named mine. We have my boobie and my oobie. my oobie is missing a part of it, but it's still there. And
when they said mastectomy, your words, which I didn't know came from Mac until 2 hours ago when Mac told me that I thought, oh, I will be like Allena. Or Allena, I will have a boobie and an ubi. I
That's
have
right.
been saying your name wrong for 10 years.
That's totally okay.
And I felt, it felt okay in a way, because I know somebody personally who's had a mastectomy besides my mother. My mother didn't have reconstruction either. And in my mind, the not having the reconstructive surgery was an act of affirmation for you, more so than an act of like accepting some kind of mutilation. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. So I could have gotten, my insurance would have covered a full reconstruction. If I would have been younger, maybe in my 30s, I probably would have gone for it. I actually have a friend who's like barely 40, and she had a double mastectomy, and she's getting new boobs. Because I'm thinking now, perky tits at 60 be kind of cool, right? Because when you get them, they stay perky for the rest of your life. And I realized part of it is that it's a long process. Mine would have been a long process of going in, getting a bladder inflated, going in and getting inflated more and stuff. And after 16 weeks of going to the hospital every other week, I didn't want to do that anymore. And the reality is I can now shoot a bow and arrow easier. And and it didn't take away from me in the long run. The hardest thing for me actually was losing my hair. So here was the thing. For me, my hair was what made me feminine. And I lost my boob, which made me feminine. And then I lost my hair, but I lost my eyelashes and my pussy hair. And
somebody told me that in
that was,
private. I had a conversation with somebody, and she said that she had one eyelash, and she put mascara on the one eyelash, and the hair in the nose.
yeah. It's bizarre. And one upside is very little has grown back on my legs. And I actually refused to ever shave again. So I got hairy armpits, but they're not that much. It didn't come back much. But and my hair came back differently. But that was harder. Losing my hair was harder than losing my tit. There was something about, because it's very up in your face. So I decided to rock it. I put lots of makeup on. I wore big earrings, and I just was looking at some pictures from Pride of that year, and I was as bald as a billiard. And because it was shortly after all my hair fell out, and I was still going through, I think I just finished chemo when we did Pride. And I said, screw it. I'm just going to rock the bald look. And now this round of cancer, my hair got thinner, but it didn't fall out. So I was glad about that. But that was hard. And it was mostly hard losing my eyelashes because I cannot put those false eyelashes on. I would end up with one in my cheek like this and then one over here like that. And I said, screw it. But that was harder than losing my tit, which was really odd when you think about it. But and another cool thing is I got a prescription to go to Nordstrom's and get bras and a fake boob, right? And so I went and got it just because how often do you get a prescription to go to Nordstrom's, big fancy department store, for anybody who doesn't know what Nordstrom's is. And I got them and I never wore them because I quit wearing a bra when I was 18 because I'm an old hippie. And so I don't wear bras anyhow. And I have a fake boob in a closet in a box, somewhere. Yeah, they're really weird. The only time I wanted to wear one time when I was going through the screening at the airport, and I could just like reach in and hand them my tit, but I wanted to so badly, but I never traveled with it when it was like, because it weighed, and I don't want to put that kind of weight in that I'm not going to use in my baggage, but I really wanted to pull my tit out for them, Getting screened at the airport is weird. One time I had this really sweet lady, TSA lady. She says, as I always take the pat down, I don't like that stupid thing that you stand in because it could give me cancer. And I've already been there. And so she's like, do you have anything you need to tell me? And I said, well, I'm missing a breast. And she goes, oh, well, no wonder you didn't want to take this stupid screening. She goes, consider this your pre-boarding massage. And she gave me the nicest, sweetest pat down. But I've never been afraid to mention my cancer to anybody. I feel that the more we put a face of normalcy to things, whatever it might be, whether it's, being gay, being trans, being one-breasted, anything that might cause some people to be upset or to react strongly, the more malice we put to it, the healthier the world is. And so I talk about it all the time. It's just, it's what it is, you know. And that's why I talk about having mesothelioma too, which is a fatal disease, but I ain't gonna die from it in a while. It's gonna be a while, you know, so whatever.
Hmm.
So what else? Anything else you want to know to get yourself
Well, like
ready?
what kinds of do people well, see, you are much more okay with the body of the Alena than I am with the body of the Katie going into this. I for certain. Um, and I was at the grocery store a few days ago, and I was like, oh, people are staring at me. And then it occurred to me, like, this is some kind of anticipatory, people will be staring at me. And then I thought, okay, well, wait, does that matter? And then, right, and but there was also the, oh,
Oh,
that kind of like the
I
pity
hate that.
response,
Yeah.
which most of my circles don't engage in. And there's a, oh, and also, oh, the assumption, talking about my experience, the assumption that I'm going into battle, fight cancer, fuck cancer, rah, rah, rah. And no. Why would I? That does me no good.
So
Yeah.
I had a hashtag right off the bat as cancer sucks and my life does not. And I refuse
Oh,
to, I'm a survivor. And I'm not a victim, first of all. I'm not a victim of cancer. I'm a survivor of cancer. And I'm doing it again. And cancer does suck. And my life doesn't. And you can use that hashtag because I think it's a great,
I love
it
it.
works, right? And one of my friends, she created hers as is cancer sucks and I'm a badass. And I'm like, I like that one too, right? But the reality is first of all, most people aren't going to notice. They just aren't. Uh, it's like, and those few that do might be people who have also gone through it. And I talk about it a lot, and I had a couple really cool experiences because I'm willing to talk about it. I have one really funny one. So one of the things you're going to get is you're going to get a drainage tube, and you drain it. And it's like not fun, and you're like draining it into this little vial container and dumping it out every day, and it's just a pain. So I have this really wonderful gay friend who we go get pedicures together, and we're getting a pedicure, and I'm bitching about the fact that that I didn't like this tube and this drain thing, and it was driving me crazy and blah, blah, blah. The lady next to me goes, "Do you got breast cancer?" And I went, "Yeah." And she goes, "I had a double mastectomy and I had these tubes all through me and stuff." And she said, "It drove me crazy, but I was doing really good until one day I'm at the opera and I sprung a leak and I'm running up the hall and there's fluid, and we're all just cracking up because we're laughing so loud, right?" And this lady, she just totally made me relax about it. It's like, okay, if she can go through that and be so cool about it. And then one time I was, just before I lost my hair, I was at a bar with the same guy, actually, with this friend of mine. And I was complaining about the fact I was going to lose my hair. And this woman next to me, this beautiful platinum blonde hair, she looks at me and she goes, "You got cancer, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting started in chemo." And she goes, "I've had it 3 times." She goes, "This is my natural hair color, but the second time it came back black and curly." So you're going to be in for some surprises, and some of them may not be bad. You might come back with blonde, straight blonde hair. Who knows?
I'm not sure that I'm going to do or need chemo.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
The clinical diagnosis or the clinical staging is 1B, which is,
No,
and people have said, how did you find it? Because I was way behind on my mammograms. My body odor changed. My
really?
body odor, yes, I can't stand my body odor right now. My body odor changed, and I was reaching over in bed and I was like, oh,
Something's wrong. Yeah.
that's a thing. And it was a lymph node that I felt that there are a couple of suspicious lymph nodes that have now been affirmed, which is why all 10 are going. And and then I felt it, and I was like, oh, it's probably just, because I have an autoimmune disorder and it's a pandemic and stress and like all of that. And then, but I was spiking low grade fevers and had some other stuff. And so my primary care office wrote me for a, what's the word, diagnostic mammogram. And I could see the Doppler where the Doppler was not going. I mean, I don't know how to read imaging, but I was like, oh, that's a mass.
Yeah.
And, and they were like, you're going to hear us say numbers. And I thought, they don't usually do that when, and then the radiologist the doctor who did the first biopsy could tell right away that I'm not climbing the ceilings, freaking out, and also that information data helps me cope.
Oh, good.
And so she affirmed when she was biopsying the tumor, she's like, oh, you have cancer. I'm like, okay. Which of course is like, and then when I got the formal diagnosis, I had 3 days of panic attack because unlike you, I'm going to be doing this in the middle of a fucking global pandemic.
Yeah. I'm
so
sorry
when you talk about having people with you and partners with you, I'm not by myself in the world, I'm not alone in the world. And I live by myself.
So we're gonna have to do some FaceTime when you're at the doctor's and stuff. You'll be like,
yeah. I have a friend of mine who I met in Pittsburgh and moved to New Zealand. She flew here. I was solidly dissociated for the because without, to get oriented. And I live, food, clothing, shelter, I'm completely safe. So, but I remember her saying, she told me, she's like, do you want sooner or later? And I was like, sooner. So that was an expensive ticket, but she's here in Pittsburgh. Well, she's with her parents now. And her family, which includes her 12-year-old son, who is named after my mascot, the red-tailed hawk. Hawk, and her husband has the same degree I do from Carnegie Mellon. It's like super weird.
oh my God, how cool.
So she'll be able to stay with me to get me through the surgery, the recovery, and then it'll likely be radiation.
Yeah.
If it stays 1B, once they do the dissection, the only reason to do chemo would be just in case, perhaps, possibly, whatever. And like the just in case, perhaps, possibly, whatever, let's fuck with my immune system during COVID. And then people say, oh, well, people are doing chemo. Yeah, but that's not the same as data or studies about the impact of chemo.
If you don't have to do chemo, don't do chemo.
Okay.
I didn't have to do radiation, which I was thankful about that. But
yeah,
chemo sucks. I mean, it really sucks. It wears your body down and you don't feel good. And I didn't throw up a lot this time. Last time, this time I threw up some.
Really?
But it's just, now one of the chemo drugs they give you for breast cancer is this red stuff, and it looks like fruit punch. It's like bright red, and they couldn't do a regular drip. They put it in a tube and they just shoot it slowly into your thing and into your port. And I asked the nurse, I'm like, so, oh, and you can taste it. That's the weird thing. When you have something on your port, you can taste it. It's just like the weirdest thing. And I said, why can't you put it in the drip? She goes, well, this is so toxic that if it gets on your skin, we'd have to cut it off your skin. And so we have to be careful that you don't. And I'm like, you're putting this in my veins? And she goes, oh, but your veins are porous. It works in your veins. And I'm like, seriously?
That's like the mercury I'm putting in your mouth.
Tell me that you pee red as soon as luckily I got up to pee while I was still there. And I'm coming out, I'm like, my piss is red. And she goes, oh, I forgot to tell you, you're going to be pee red. So it was, and it's the one that caused my hair to fall out. And it was horrible. But then there was another one that I got later, because I did 4 rounds of that, then 4 rounds of another one that made my bones hurt. And you can't do anything about bones hurting. You can do things about nausea. You can do things about other pain, but bone pain, you can't do a thing about. So I'm going to pray and I don't even believe in prayer, but I'm going to pray that you do not have to do chemo, because it's a pain in the ass for other parts of the body. But
Yeah. Well, the
I think you
bone
got this.
hurt. What?
You've got this. You're a force. So you got lots of support. There's a lot of us who love you.
I
So.
do have support, and I love you back. And
Yeah, I know.
it's been a shit several years. Anyway, not that there's ever a good time.
Oh yeah.
Because
Oh,
there isn't.
this is a good time to get cancer. Let's put
I
that
would
on my
like to schedule
calendar.
my breast cancer for when I'm not in perimenopause. But there's also I don't know. And I mean, I was telling Mac, I had an EKG this week because, my blood work and my EKG, came back unusual or whatever, abnormal. And it could be anything from you're going to die tomorrow to the tech took my shirt off without my consent and I was angry. Like and as I'm looking, there's like 68 things that cause this irregularity. Yep. So I have to now get a nuclear stress test.
Weird.
And I guess, so it'll be with a contrast, and then I have to squeeze balls, which of course I'll be making ball jokes the whole time. And when my doctor's office, she was asking me questions and I was answering them honestly. And she said, well, because your EKG came back, whatever. And I said, oh, you're not going to clear me for surgery. And her response to me was, are you going to be okay mentally? And I'm sure my affect changed. And I was like, well, I do have Valium in the house. So, but also, okay, maybe it is upsetting. Nothing happens there. Now there's a deep threat of, is my heart going to manifest the Zitterbart heart story, which is long. And, and then if so, then what? Which only adds complexity. Thank goodness the staging is low, and I don't even know. And I want to stay at this path, step. But there's a whole bunch of what if.
Yeah.
And I mean, just I'm looking to where Jennifer's not here, but like where she sits in the zone. Just going over the advanced directive.
Oh yeah,
and
remember that? Yes, absolutely.
Quality of life and.
Yeah, and mine is all complicated because it's all about polyamory and stuff. So it's kind of weird, but I was like, whatever, I don't care. But yeah, that's a tough one, and I know I have my moments where, so my heart, I have arrhythmia, and it wasn't any big deal during my first round of cancer, but it's become a big deal, and I think it's because I gained so much weight and stuff after the first round. Because when I was in Poland and they're like, oh, we're gonna get you on some heart drugs, and when I got back here to the States, I had to go see a cardiologist, and so I've done all kinds of EKGs and CAT scans, and of course I also get CAT scans from my oncologist, and the contrast. If it's the kind of contrast that they insert in you, not the ones you drink, makes you feel like you're gonna pee. It is the weirdest feeling ever.
I think it's super cool. I got it when my appendix.
What the heck's going on?
My appendix was threatening to burst. It wasn't quite burst. You'll appreciate this, as you know, I'm a sincere masochist. And they were asking me, what's your pain level? And I was like, I don't know, like a 4. And because it's not a bone break. I haven't had a baby and I've never passed a kidney stone. So like my standard is bone break, and it's a thud. Appendix is a thuddy pain, not a stingy pain. I prefer thud. And so they do the contrast, and she goes, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I wanted to masturbate because it was like all into my genitals, which I knew would be weird. Yeah. So cool. And then it came back and she's like, we need to take you to emergency surgery right now. You could die. And I was like, oh, I guess maybe I need to recalibrate my 4, you know,
As a masochist, I can understand that.
you know, but also, and this could be a whole separate conversation. I'm leaning on ordeal work that I've done, on the BDSM that I've engaged in, on the ways that I leverage neuroplasticity in that context
Yep,
to, and I think that's partially why I've been largely even Steven. I mean, I'm upset and I have anxiety,
of
but
course.
I'm not freaking out.
I think I'm the same for me. I really am. I'm a you know I'm a switch. Tried to be submissive, but it didn't work. But I'm dominant. I'm masochistic, and I'm sadistic, right? And a big part of what got me, and I'm poly, so I'm greedy.
You're all the things.
I'm all the things. But what got me through it was my poly community and the fact that I have dealt with pain and I have dealt with that discomfort and I have dealt with that and I did try to find some ways and I did find some ways to kind of semi-eroticize what I was going through and that kind of stuff. Although it's interesting, now that I'm on my second round of dealing with cancer, I'm not as masochistic as I was. I've kind of like, I've bottomed to cancer twice, but you know what? I'm still pretty sadistic, so watch out. And
Okay,
when I was in
okay,
Poland,
noted.
I had a young man who I'm 67, but then I was 65. He's 27, and mommy did a lot of mean things to him, so I had a lot of fun.
Oh, good. How did you discover your second cancer?
Oh, that was really weird. I started having these really weird gut problems, and to the point where, and I'm in Poland, right? And I mean, I had diarrhea, then I would have constipation, and there was just all this, crap. No, no pun intended. And so I went in to the doctors there, which, by the way, healthcare there is so much cheaper than it is here. I mean, like, oh my God, cheaper. $40 doctor visits, that kind of stuff, right? And I went in and I got a colonoscopy. Oh, and an endoscopy, which was worse than the colonoscopy going down my throat.
Mhm.
I got to watch. They don't put you out in Poland, like here in the States, they put you under. There they don't. So I got to watch my colonoscopy on the camera. That was kind of cool, actually. And I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And then all of a sudden, my lungs started bothering me. But I thought it was because the town I was in Poland had a high air pollution rate, and it was wintertime. And I went to this one doctor and for my lungs finally, because they were bothering me a lot. And she's like, "Well, you to go to the hospital and we're going to diagnose, find out what's wrong." And so I went to their local hospital and I spent like a week in the hospital. And in the process, I found out that's when they diagnosed me. At first, they thought I might have cervical cancer or some other kind of that kind of cancer because I had a mass in my uterus, but it was benign and I've no big deal. So they first thought it might be that. Then they kind of messed around and then they figured out they were pretty sure it was mesothelioma. And when I got back here to the States, it was definitely diagnosed, but it was diagnosed over in Poland. But I went through from December till March before I found out I had cancer. So I went through a long period. And it
Wow.
was interesting because meso you only live usually 6 months with it. And I went half of that time without even knowing I had it. Hey, and I'm still here. But
Yeah,
and then I almost died when I was in Poland, uh,
I
and which
remember you.
that was weird as fuck because I didn't know I almost died because I was out of it. It was like in June of last year, and I wake up to 600 condolences on my Facebook, and I was like, "Oh, the rumor of my demise has been highly exaggerated. Thank you very much."
Yes, I do remember that because I had massive butt pucker.
Yeah,
I was and
it was
and
so.
and then I was like, wait a minute, was this, were we all just punked? Is this Elena's like weird sense of humor?
You know,
What just
Laura
happened?
Antono actually said, "Great way to top the community, Alena." And I'm like,
Yeah.
but the reality was, and again, talking about European versus healthcare here, I was in ICU for over a week and I had blood transfusions and tests and all that. And it cost me 5,000 US dollars. When I had my first chemo that was in April before that, my first chemo, $1,600. I'm not even gonna tell you how expensive it is now. Thank God for insurance. And I
Yeah.
have retirement insurance because I'm on Social Security. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was an interesting eye opener going through that in Europe. And I know it's a little side thing, but
No,
it was fascinating.
it's relevant though.
It is
One of the reasons I can be relaxed right now is my privilege and
exactly,
the money of my dead mother. Truthfully,
and
I
it does
haven't
make a
worked.
difference. Yeah,
I haven't worked in any real significant way in a few years because of dying parents, trauma, paralysis, like all that, which is expensive. And it would be great for me to have the cash right now. But I also, I'm borrowing on retirement, right? I'm not
right.
facing homelessness. I can afford whole foods, not all organic. I did have some mac and cheese today because sometimes
Yeah,
I
yeah.
eat my feelings. But and people treat me a certain way medically because of the melanin,
Absolutely.
that
I'm
I,
mixed race, but I pass as white and I was raised as white. And I
yeah,
definitely I get it totally.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, shifting gears,
Yes.
you wrote a book, which
I
is
am
partially why you moved, right?
I have a book that I put together with a friend of mine in Australia. I'm actually working on another book about conscious relationships, whether you're poly or monogamous. Hopefully that'll be
Mhm.
out in a couple months or be done in a couple months. I'm still writing it. But here, I'm going to hold this up and bump it from
Hold
my
it up.
ta-da.
Sex positive now.
Sex Positive Now. It's a compilation of, and it says here, everything you need to know about sex positivity. And it's pretty good as far as what we have. It's a compilation of essays written by people from all over the world. We have an essay from a woman from Beijing, China. We have an essay from a guy that lives in South America. We cover pretty much every continent, and we cover pretty much every area. We have stuff about disability. I have a friend here in Seattle. She's one of the few sex positive Christian activists that I know, and she wrote a book about Christianity and sexuality that is profound. My friend Tina, Mac and his partner Don are in it. Lots of people. Annie Sprinkle, there's an interview with her and her partner, and yeah, we finished it this last fall, and we've been working on it for several years, and it was like so awesome to see my name on a book. I was like, I can't believe
It's
I've
about
actually done
time.
it. Yeah, it is,
It
and
really is.
it's available on Amazon. So we're doing that whole
Yeah.
weird thing. We have it
Yeah.
available online. We have a sexpositivenow.com website. And my Australian Jeremy Shub, who's my Australian co-author, he runs all that, and so you can order it from there also. And he is currently creating an audiobook of it, so we'll have that
Awesome.
soon. He's been working on that, so very excited
And
about
for
that.
the audience now, because now I'm not looking at you, I had to ask Allena to get the book. Well, I didn't have to, but yeah, no, it's an awesome resource and so many voices.
I'm pretty happy with it. I was kind of pleasantly surprised that it turned out so well, and it was a labor of love, definitely. Yeah.
It's in alignment with how you are in the sex positive world, which is
Mom,
have
sex,
skills, have knowledge, and you could very easily position yourself as this is how you do it because you do know enough.
yeah.
And your choice with this was to say, here is how we do
It's
it. And I just
it's
think that's beautiful.
everybody does it differently, So I have a personal mission statement, and that is to bring joy and make a difference in the world. That's my personal mission statement. Everybody should have a personal mission statement, I think, and I'm really pleased because the book seems to be part of that. It's worked out that
Yeah,
way, it made me
that's
very happy.
awesome.
I'm very, very, very pleased with it.
Cool. Well,
And I want to
good.
say something to you is
Yes.
that anytime you need to talk to me, anytime you need somebody to, bitch slap you and say, wake up, girl, or to give you big warm hugs, even though they'll be through Zoom, I'm there for you.
Thank you.
So I reached out to you as soon as I
Yeah.
read it on Facebook. I just want you to know that I am there for you, and anybody else who's going through this shit. Is we need to be supportive of each other in our communities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is a big moment for me to receive.
I understand that too. I'm not
And
good
then
at receiving shit like this. Yep.
yeah, you know, Jennifer has helped me move everything in my apartment because, of course, living by myself, pandemic, and also I have a 50-pound laser and all that shit. And I've been here since last fall, and I'm just now moved in because it's just been so wild with everything neurologically. And part of me is like, oh, I should have been, you know, coulda, shoulda, whatever. No, I actually I needed a friend. It's great to have a friend to help me, right? And
That's
so,
right.
yes, I am now surrendering to the process of
Hey,
accepting love, and in a way
I
that
totally get that.
you know, and
I don't take help
I'm
very well, and having cancer taught me that it's okay to let go and let someone help you. It's just true.
yeah,
Mac and Dawn took me in
yeah.
thinking I might die. I mean, I wasn't supposed to live the rest of the year, and they
Well,
brought me
perhaps
in
this is
to be here for
partially
me.
why you're
It is. There's a
still,
lot to do
because you
why,
have, yeah, yeah.
because I have that
And I'm
support.
glad you are.
Me too. Thank you.
Yes. And may you be here as long as possible, and feeling as good as possible for
Oh,
you.
I have to live to at least 84 because that's when I get to start smoking again. No.
Oh, my mother did it at 75.
Oh, really? I quit
I
smoking.
busted
I told
her.
myself at 84 I get to start again because who gives a shit when you're 84?
She said 75. And I went outside one day, and she should know, you go across the street to sneak cigarettes in that house. And she was underneath the deck, and I passed her, and she just went, and this will be our secret. And I was like, yes, it will.
Bravo.
So my father didn't know. I never, well, now my brother might. What I loved about it, and I'm kind of the same way, it's like, and this is happening. Like, she didn't show fear or whatever, but
Yep.
yes. So 84 for you.
For me, yeah, that's it.
I'm looking forward to doing all the drugs again sometime, all the other drugs.
Yes.
Not these
Thank
damn
God
other,
for
you know.
and CBD and THC.
THC, yeah. I do qualify for medical, so I need to
Yes.
finish moving here paperwork wise. I have a LLC in Tennessee, and whatever.
The CBD, the THC helps you get, if you do end up with chemo, if you do, it will get you through the nausea really well, just to let you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
CBD helps with pain. So I used a
yeah.
lot of CBD. And I couldn't get THC in Poland, but I could get CBD. There was a little hemp store just down the street, and I used to get CBD oil from them.
And
so.
now you can get THC and CBD in Seattle, in
I
part
get
because of some
whatever
of the
I
work
want.
I did there. Yeah.
It's very nice.
Which is useful. Well, cool. It's nice to see you smiling
It's good to see
and
you.
to be somewhat proximal.
I know. It's like
I'll hug the. Love you.
having me on and talk about this.
Yeah, thanks for offering.
I'm glad I could share my journey with you.
Appreciate it.
My
And
adventure.
I will call you.
Because I have a website, our page on our group on. I have two groups on Facebook that I want to tell you about. One is Alena's bad jokes of the day, and the other one is Alena's Life is a Banquet tour, because life is a banquet and most poor son of a bitches are starving to death.
Oh
Because
my
that's
God, I
the
love
book.
it.
The book Auntie Mame, they said son of a bitches, not suckers, and like they did in the movie, because they could.
Yeah.
The book. So
Cool.
life is a banquet.
Yay.
Yay.
Could you direct message me the links to the groups so that I can,
I will send those to
I'll
you.
let it, and then I'll download the recording, which hopefully is actually Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and feel free to post it anywhere. I'm totally.
Yeah, well, and I'll send it to you as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thanks. Okay. Love you back.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And quitting.
believe.
Yeah, I know. What?